of you know getting scored against, but you never know. In these kind of games, it can happen last minute, and then that's just. And we haven't been very good at exploiting the other chances. Like we have got chances to make up on points, but we have never done that. So this
Hmm.
one, I was afraid we would be able to, but it absolutely opens up the league again for us, and that's something amazing.
Yeah, it is, and to be fair, I did not expect us to be in this position today because expecting Espanyol of all teams to take points
Again,
off Real Madrid, that never happens. That just never happens. You can go into conspiracy theories as much as you want, but there is something there, right? They just don't play well against Real Madrid. Whether that's by design or just they
but
just
won
struggle
just two
against
times
them.
in the whole history of La Liga.
See, so there you go, there you go. This never happens. So even if you don't want to be the conspiracy theorist, you can still admit that something is there that don't do well against Real Madrid. And I wasn't expecting that win from them. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad that we managed to capitalize on it as well. It did not look good in the first half. Far from it. It
Terrible.
was a very, very frustrating first half. But that said, however, the
And the
second
build-up from the
half,
back was so important, right? The
it
moment
was.
Eric Garcia came in, it was such a big
It
difference in
was a different game. It was a
the
different
game.
game, and I think it also created to Fleck because I think when he sees that something's wrong, more often than not, he will do what he thinks is best to fix it, right? And this was an immediate fix. It wasn't I'll wait until the 60th or 70th minute and then I'll fix things. No, it was I'll fix things or I'll try and fix things from the minute 45 onwards, right? So there was no waiting. There was no second thoughts. It was like, okay, De Jong, Eric, you're going in. And you're changing things, and they have changed things. So credit to Fleck because I really like that. Now I have actually criticized his game management before in the past. Because I think when we are winning and things are going well, he just lets them play, which is fine. Okay, lets them play, but there are situations in which you should be looking to rotate. And tonight or today rather, it was a case of good management. He saw something was wrong and he went straight into it and he fixed it. And I'm so happy he did because I know this is a 1-0 win, which we don't get a lot of under Fleck, but it's a 1-0 win that you take to the bank and you treasure it as gold, right? Because this was
Absolutely. You need
a
these one
massive,
zeros.
yeah, 1-0, but it was a massive, massive
It was
win.
an
And
amazing 1-0. This was one of the best 1-0 ever. I
yeah,
mean, we got used to 1-0s in Xavi's reign. So
yeah,
after a
yeah,
long time, there was a 1-0, and I absolutely, treasured the 1-0 when it ended
yeah.
that way. So,
No, no, absolutely,
let's
absolutely.
see. Is Yeah, it's clear. Like those two changes made the world of difference. Eric Garcia, because the passes from the back were not coming; they were going wrong. A lot of missed passes, a lot of sloppy passing in the first half. Obviously, the moment Eric came in, that became much better. And we are doing a piece on Casado, so you'll be able to see that. But TLDR is Casado is very good as a distributor, but to break these kind of blocks, he's probably not the right profile. And that's where Frankie, because he's a ball carrier, because he likes playing that way. Frankie is a
Yeah.
much better person suited for this kind of a team or this kind of setup. So yeah, that made
Mhm.
totally all the difference in the world, and we could see the difference in the second half.
Mhm.
But that was just a nail biting
It
one.
was. It was insane. In the first half, I think there were several things wrong in that first half, and I tweeted like a short thread about it. I think the several factors included a lot of it was our own fault as well. I think because we've played somehow we looked tired. We looked fatigued. We were doing the basics very wrong, like a lot of miscontrol passes, a lot of mishit passes, a lot of wrong movements, all of out of rhythm movements, and just not being in sync. And I think those basic things that you should be getting right as a collective, when those things are all that wrong, I always say it's usually mental or physical fatigue or both of those things. And a change was needed, right? A change of personnel was needed. So again, credit to Flick, but there was also this problem where we just couldn't access any of our key players in the middle. And partly, yes, definitely, as you said, there was no from the back. We didn't have that incisiveness in passing, right? So to access those areas, but at the same time, we kept pushing. So Pedri was peeling out wide to the left. Castro was dropping inward, so deep next to the center backs or just in front of the center backs, which meant that once Furman pushes up, which he normally does because he's that kind of a player, he will attack the space. He will be the more aggressive player out of possession. Once he goes up, there's a huge gap in between. There's no one to play to, and that invites verticality, and that doesn't really give you this less variance type of buildup. It forces you into more variance. So I think from that perspective, we just didn't have a central presence in the first half at all. And again, credit to Alaves as well, because they did really well to kind of shut down those central channels in the first place. And they also played very, very rough. I think
Yeah.
even a bit too rough at times, where they would get away with it when they shouldn't have gotten away with it, because the fouls on Lamine, it just didn't seem to me like something that the referee should be allowing as much, but he did for one reason or the other. It was a rough game from them, and they knew how much they can push, right? How much they can actually do of the quote unquote shithousery that we like to call it that way. They did a lot of that, and it worked for them for the first half. But then changes from Flick actually changed the game. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's also give them credit. Like, yeah, we made a lot of mistakes, and the first half was terrible. But there's something about these teams, man. Like, I mean, even today, like if you look at their press and if you look at their man to man, it was on point for majority of the game, and that level of commitment that they put in, you got to give something to these teams. Like, I've been like, we hate them. Like, we hate we hate we hate all these teams who do this
Mm-hmm.
to us. But if you were not a Barca fan, if you're neutral and you were looking at the game and you were looking at how they were setting up and how they were neutralizing the central channels, or the passing lanes,
Yeah.
that was just on point for majority of the game. They're really drilled to the core, and they were doing exactly what they need to do
Yeah.
to stop a Barca, because otherwise you open up and you go toe to toe with Barca, and then you before you know, you've conceded 6 goals, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for their fans, I think they did the best thing that they could do. And for us, obviously, it was frustrating, but kudos to them as well. Honestly, it wasn't, yeah, they did the shithousery, but can't blame them with what they have. It's hard to say that we had to be moralistic about this. I think they did the best that they could
Mm-hmm.
to get the
Mm-hmm.
result that they wanted. But overall, yeah, so happy that it's over. So happy we got 3 points, and now it's like 4 points probably. And next week, I think one of them is going to drop points, or
They
both.
will.
If there is a draw, that'll suit us
Mm-hmm.
the best.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
either ways, I think the league just got open, and I do think even after this, all of us are going to drop points. I think even Barca will drop points. I think Madrid and Atleti, they'll both drop points. So this
Mm-hmm.
one's going to the wire, as Van Lee said. But Van Lee has a question for you, Dom, and that is
Yeah.
something you don't even know what that is, but maybe you know. Um,
Which one? Let me check the
this
comments. Oh,
one.
it's there. NBA. Well, we can talk NBA if you guys want. I'm not as proficient in NBA
I don't even
as
know anything
maybe
about NBAs. Honestly,
it's
what's basketball?
ba- basketball. Yeah, basketball. Luka Doncic to Lakers. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it on Twitter, and it is a bit of a strange one. Mavericks seem to think that Luka Doncic is getting a bit fat, apparently, and that's why they would trade him. But it does seem a bit weird that you trade a world class player, a player who's been touted as the world's best, among the world's best, and to just willingly give that up. It is a bit weird. That said, I don't have the context, right? I don't watch NBA regularly. I only see the news on Twitter, and I see clips here and there. And when I do some research for football, actually not for basketball, so it's tough for me to say. But it does seem weird from an outsider's perspective, which I am. I am an outsider. I don't really follow it, so I don't know. But it seems weird. You are right.
And there's a good point from Josie, and I would agree that yes, we have this habit of revisionism. Like, okay, somebody plays
Hmm.
bad, and then some we idolize them too fast, or make them villains too fast. I think Castro is good in what he does. In certain games, Castro is very much required. In certain game states, Castro is very much required, and we have been frustrated with Frankie in many a game. But in games like this, he does bring in something that helps the team. So um, both can be good. They're just both not great in all situations, which is okay, based on how players are.
Yes, and I had this discussion today with someone on Twitter where I said that when you have these second thoughts about players, well, not even second thoughts, when you see certain players as more of a situational pick, right? You see their profiles as situational uses. That to me is more of a squad quality player than necessarily a undisputed starter quality player. Because when you look at Pedri, when you look at Lamine, of course, when you look at Kubarsi, for example, even when you look at Balde and Rafinha, you would play those players regardless of the context. No matter who's on the other side, you would play them in your strongest team, right? You will always play them. Whereas you have Casado and you have Frankie, for example, this at this moment, and you could make a case like, okay, in certain games I would prefer Frankie, but I would not prefer him in these other games. And the same can also be said to a certain extent about Casado as well. As they've said, they are good at what they do, and JC says as well, he's good at what he does. Yes, he is good at what he does, but he also needs favorable context to be the best at what he does, right? For example, today, when you don't have a dominant scenario in which you can pin the position back and then Casado can be the distributor from a slightly deeper area and doesn't need to problem solve as much, and then he's in his good environment, so to speak, right? And tonight was not his good environment, and that shows you that he's also some sort of a situational player, not all the way because he has many uses. Castro is very useful in many things. That's what's good about him, but he also does have visible and exploitable limitations as well, which is what we saw today as well.
Absolutely. So I think nobody's perfect that way.
Yeah,
The
no one's
fact that we have different kind of profiles, that's we are
Mhm.
lucky, so that we can draw on players like this for different situations, and hopefully they keep, helping us in situations that will happen inevitably again. So, um, very happy that we had Frankie on the bench, and very happy that Flick did not wait till the 70th minute to make that change. He made that
Yeah,
change immediately at
yeah.
halftime, giving it time to the team to adjust. And and obviously by the 60th minute when we scored, that was good. I also like the fact that we held on to a 1-0 from 60th to 90th. I think that was good. There was a lot of uh, tactical playing that happened from Barca in those 30 minutes to hold on to that lead without parking the bus, so as to say.
Mhm.
I think we saw some strange things from Sejny. But let's for a moment talk about Lamine Yamal. He didn't get a goal, but
Mhm.
day by day, I think everybody can see on the
Yeah.
pitch who he's starting to resemble. We don't say his name, but it is getting so reminiscent. And today he was like outstanding. Like when this
Mhm.
kid starts adding goals to his game, it'll be a scary apparition.
And he will. I think inevitably he will start in goals because he has all the fundamentals. He has the ball striking. He's developing the box crashing as well and off the ball movement. And he already has the brain, right. He has all the fundamentals to be a great goal scorer, right. And I think today we saw how much he gets fouled, how much he gets targeted, how much he gets roughed upon. Like teams know what they have to do to Lamine to stop him, and it's very difficult to stop him. And I think that's in a way that is kind of the biggest compliment you can get because he's getting the Messi and Neymar treatment already at 17. He's getting that treatment because the only way to stop Messi and Neymar was to kick them on the shins, not to take the ball away from them, but just kick them straight on the legs. That's how people and defenders usually stop the likes of Messi and Neymar and those kind of tricky dribblers and players who influence the game at the highest level, right? And Lamine is already getting that treatment.
Yeah,
Now it's not good for him because he'll get kicked a lot, but that's the reality of it, right? It's not nice. We don't like it. I hate that he's getting kicked, but it's the reality of things. It's not going to change. It's only going to get worse, right? As he gets better and more influential, this thing is going to get worse because teams won't know what to do, and the only resource they will have to stop him will be something that borders on the illegal, right, in terms of football rules, because you're not meant to kick players on the legs, but teams will try and push those boundaries a bit, test the water, see how far they can push the referee. Because tonight, what Alaves did, they played with that a bit. They pushed a bit too far, but the referee was kind of allowing it with no
because they played
real.
on that edge. You played on that border. They don't do.
Exactly. Yeah.
They break
Yeah.
these small cynical fouls throughout the game to
Hmm.
disrupt the rhythm,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so that they don't get fully carded. but at the
Yeah.
same time, the game's completely destroyed, right? So
Yep.
they do it, but at the same time, I do agree your point with your point, Dom. But don't like I just feel that like the dribbles today that he did were so much more better than
They
six
were.
months ago.
Hmm.
Outstanding, like his control, body control, his
Yeah.
control after being fouled. How does he maintain his gravity, his balance, his ability to, maneuver the very tight spaces, three or four dribbles across four or five
Hmm.
defenders in a very short area of time, space. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's insane. Like what we are seeing. Do you think he'll be adding goals to his repertoire
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
Messi did, or do you think that's asking for too much?
I think he will. I think he will. At the moment, he's not being found in very high value scoring positions himself, right? He's more about creating those positions and scenarios either for himself or for others. And the numbers do suggest that, the expected goals and stuff like that, he's not right topping the charts in those categories just yet. Meaning that he's not in those goal scoring opportunities as much as some of the best goal scoring wingers are. But he's still influencing the play at the maximum
Level.
level, even without that, right? So and when it comes to his dribbling, yes, I think it is still improving. He's still adding things, and the way that he actually readjusts his body, like in between two movements. So let's say he starts to go right, but then he decides, okay, or maybe he has a missed touch, a misplaced touch, a too heavy touch. He can fix that in a millisecond with a quick touch following the first touch, and then readjust his body to make that bad touch, work in his favor. And that's something insane that I've not seen many players do. Like readjusting in between two moves. I don't even have to explain it. It's a move between a move, between two moves, even, which should not be possible, but it is possible for Lamine. But he also gets a lot of the fundamentals right, and all of it is instinctive. But when you look at it, the way that his steps work, how he runs, first he runs in little steps, and he fixes you. And what that means is that you don't know which way he's going to go. Right, he arrives at the dribble at the exact right pace and distance from you that he can go either way and you don't know which way to go, right? That means fixing your opponent. And then he prolongs his step. He bursts from a standstill, prolong his step or prolong his stride, and he blitzes past you, right? And it sounds very much like, okay, he just runs past someone, but there's so many little details that go into that. And I don't want to spoil it because we'll be bringing more of Lamines very, very soon to you guys. But there's a lot of complex layers in Lamine's dribbling and carrying. You wouldn't even believe it, but yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, I was like without just for the casual observer, just watching him
Yeah,
play
yeah,
was
yeah.
is beautiful today. His ability and just the I think that's what makes football so wonderful
Hmm.
for a majority of the guys. Everybody's not a tactical analyst or whatever, and
Yeah,
you don't need to be as
yeah,
well.
sure.
But just watching a player like that just play,
Hmm.
for the fun of playing,
Hmm.
and that was amazing. Hey, somebody has a question. Let's say Real Madrid drop more points. Do you believe that Barca are capable of winning all their games from now on? Dom, do you believe they
Not
can win
all
all their
games,
games?
but like let's look at the schedule because I think that mentally, when you look at the schedule from this moment and moving forward, I think it favors Barca a lot. Number one is that it's the just the difficulty of games, but number two, it's also the venues. Now we've been struggling at Montjuic against these lower table teams. I think it was it Leganes, it was who else was it? We lost to someone else if I'm not wrong.
Osasuna,
Las Palmas. It was the Las Palmas defeat.
Las
Yeah. So
Palmas, we lost to Las Palmas, we lost to Osasuna, we lost to
yeah, but at
Real
home.
Betis,
Yeah, at home.
we were very close to Celta, so Real
Yeah. So
Sociedad. We lost to quite a few.
there's an argument to be made that okay, Montjuic is an advantage, but it's not as massive of an advantage for us. But it still is. I think mentally, the road ahead, the schedule ahead is much more favorable to Barcelona than it is to Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. I think all three, as you said, Dev, will drop points, and I don't.
I think they all got points.
Yes, absolutely. All three will drop points. And I don't trust Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid to be far more consistent than us. I don't trust them to be that. Uh, but I think I
Nobody's got that
no.
invincibility. Like when you see the teams, right?
Hmm.
I saw them. I saw the Espanyol game against Madrid
Hmm.
yesterday. None of the teams are like invincible. Right away,
Hmm.
I'm going to just blow them away. That there are just no teams like that. Not in Barca, not them. So And teams have become difficult. Like La
Yeah.
Liga is not easy; it's very difficult. So
Hmm.
I don't think any of us, or any of the teams, are going to win all. Will it come down to us, the Clasico and against Atleti? Will it? Are those the two games then, that will define
You
the season for us?
usually that rarely happens, right? I think
Because the Clasico is like the end, like
it's
in
in May.
May or
It's at
something like that.
10th or 11th of May. We don't know
I don't
yet.
even think that will have a bearing anymore by the time. I think by the time you have already decided who's going to
Potentially,
win the league.
potentially, yeah, potentially. Usually, it rarely comes down to a single game between two big teams. That rarely happens. Mostly in league play, it's how you handle the other 30 something games, right? So it's not. Almost never the classical that it comes down to. But if it does, obviously we don't know what form both teams will be in come May. We don't know that simply, and the status of the squads, because squad depth, injuries, transfers. Even we have a couple of days more of the transfer window, so we don't know. But looking at it from today's perspective, I would still favor Barcelona in a direct clash. You can never tell because in those classicals everything can happen. But I would favor Barca, and I do favor our schedule somewhat, especially now that we don't have this middle part of the Champions League. The what is it called, the playoff part. That could also be something that helps us. Just decrease the load a bit, and obviously we'll see how
Yeah,
Copa del Rey goes as well.
but I just still think, like I think Getafe, I think Valladolid, I think sorry, Vallecano, I think La Real, Celta,
Yeah.
Leganes. Alaves was one of them. It's done for the season. We are done with Alaves.
Mhm.
I think there are like 6 games which are quite hard for
Oh
Barca.
yeah.
I still think there are
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
6 games. Forget Classico can go anyway.
Mhm.
Atleti, I think we can get the better of Atleti the next time around. I think we will. But I still think, all in all, even if you keep aside the Classico, I think there are about 6 games that are quite hard for Barca and have been
Mhm.
always. We'll see how it goes, and hopefully, like Flick has taken his notes from
Yeah.
the past ones, and he will know what to do with them, and that'll be interesting to see how it goes. But if you see Alaves 1 and Alaves 2 was better
Mm.
for Alaves than the first time around. So you never know. The return fixtures can be harder, can be more difficult. But yeah, there are about 6 games that are difficult, that we can't just like say, yeah, we're gonna win them all. It's hard to say that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm desperately waiting for Inigo Araujo, man. WTF? What was that performance? Yeah, and we are doing a video on
We are.
Araujo, I
Yeah.
think, in a couple of
Mhm.
days.
Mhm.
So you should see some of this analysis that we have done about him, the good and the not so
Yep.
good, and what we think about him. To your point, yeah, Araujo was one of the weak points in that first half. Not that he's a bad defender, but in games like this, you got to do more than what he was doing as a defender, and that is just not within his skill set. That doesn't make him a bad defender, though. It just makes him a bad defender in Flick's system. Any other system, I mean Aston Villa, whatever, or in Premier League, or even in Italy, uh, yeah, he'll be quite good. He'll be really good. But in Flick's system, you need people who can break those lines, who can create those passes, and so on and so forth. And I doubt Araujo will ever be that person. So either we make peace with it, or we hope that he finds another place in the
Yeah,
summer.
it's difficult. I think Araujo is still, as you said, a very valuable player, especially for the right team. Now, is that team going to be Barca? We'll see. And I keep saying that defending is largely a collective thing, right? It's largely the collective thing, and it's also true in Araujo's case, and he is. Right, to his credit, yeah, great defender. Not so much to his credit, he's also a situational pick nowadays. Until if he becomes what he was, right? Because I still think he's not fully sharp and fit.
It.
Coming after such an injury that he has sustained after so much time
I
off,
agree with you on
you
that.
can't,
I
you
agree
can't,
with you on that.
it simply can't be the same guy physically this quickly. He would be an extremely extreme phenomenon, right? If he was fully sharp and fully fit already, right? The same old Araujo that we knew when he was, the best defender by far, right? In our, not just in our team, but beyond the team as well. But yes, what Dev says is also true, that in games like these ones, Flick would rather have an Eric Garcia than Araujo. That's also true, and again, doesn't really mean that one is better than the other. It's just that it means that neither of them is a nailed-on starter, and both of them are
No,
more of like a
except Kubarsi, I don't think there's a
ex-
nail-on starter. I think
exactly.
Kubarsi is a nail-on starter.
Hmm.
That's the end of it.
Hmm.
I think Inigo, Araujo,
Yeah.
they'll all compete for spots along with Eric Garcia for, or maybe Christensen when, I
Hmm.
don't know when he'll come
Yeah.
back or if he'll
We'll
come
see.
back. But the only nailed-on starter, I think, is Pau
Yeah, he's
Kubarsi.
the only
That's
one.
it.
He's the only one, yes. And Van Lee says that he's not worried about passing, but Flick is. Flick is worried about passing. And I also think that that's one of the reasons why, or the main reason even why Pena is not playing anymore. I don't think Chesney is elite in his distribution, far from it. But
Terrible he was.
but I don't think. But yeah, I know. He has some shaky passes, but I think he is far more incisive and courageous on the ball than Pena is. Pena would not even
I agree.
try many of those passes, and I think that is at the moment. If I had to pinpoint something that's not behind the scenes, that's not contract wise, that's not conspiracy theory, I would say it's the passing. And I think this is what Flick is starting to value more and more. So yes, I also want my defenders finally to be great defenders, but I think Araujo at this point in time is a situational pick. And the problem is he doesn't want to be a situational pick. He made that very, very clear this winter. He doesn't want to be he wants to be what Kubarsi is for Barca. He wants to be that guy.
He's central. I'm the guy who leads the
Yeah,
defense. He was not
he was not
happy
happy. Yeah.
being subbed off today. You could see on his
Hmm.
face. And if he continues, he's not going to stay in the summer. That's for sure. That's why he has got the clause in the way that he has.
Hmm.
Um, I just feels bad because he's a passionate player, so he gives everything into the game and he wants to be involved. But you could see the struggle today, and we have seen the struggle earlier as well in other games and so on and so forth. So, but for Flick, he's far more dogmatic than Xavi. So for Flick, uh, if he decides that he has to play a particular way, he will have to play that particular way, and then for doing that, he'll do
Hmm.
anything. So it's going to be hard for Araujo, but I think there'll be games where he will be very, very important. Like there'll be
They can be.
games
Yeah. Mm.
like Champions League
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. There'll be many games there where you will need an Araujo because we don't have a defender
Exactly.
of his
Yeah. No, we
profile.
don't.
It's just the
That's very sure. Yeah, no, sorry about that. Yeah, I no, absolutely agree because he may be situational, but there are situations in which you will want him on the pitch absolutely, and the Champions League might actually be that as well because in those games, in theory, there will be more open games in the Champions League than in La Liga. In La Liga, it may be much more of this, what we saw today, where Barca can be the dominant side on the ball, but can't really breach the block because of many reasons. And one of those reasons might be Araujo's passing, right? I don't think that was the only determining factor tonight. It wasn't. There was many things wrong, and I tweeted about a lot of those things. And there was I had this whole discussion on Twitter the other day. I was last week with the guy who saw our live broadcast Dev after the Atalanta, and he said that we were so biased that it was
yeah, we're always
a
biased.
bad analysis because we focused on Araujo's weaknesses too much and not on the collective struggles that Barca have. But we've been screaming about collective issues that Barca have, even when Barca were winning 5-0, when Barca were smashing Bayern. We were saying, okay, yes, but there are these
This
things
was
that,
lucky. 6-0, but Bayern
I
was
know,
lucky.
it
He
was,
didn't deserve it.
there were moments in which, so many times that people would say, okay, but guys, Dom, Dev, you're so negative. You always talk about the bad things, but because when bad things exist, we will highlight them, right? The same as with good things. I think we do have a balance like that. But at the same time, Araujo was a big topic then because we had the same problem back then against Atalanta that we had today, and that problem was.
But don't you feel it's so strange, Dom? And I feel about it like last two
Mhm.
years, right? When we didn't have
Yeah.
Kubarsi, when Inigo hadn't got the prominence, right? This was Araujo, this was Barca. Nobody had any problems with
Mm.
him. He was one of the stars of the moment you had Kubarsi come up, the moment we started seeing that he could play the way that he does.
Yeah.
And the moment Araujo went up on an injury, and we saw Inigo get a big run of game, because before that, where was Inigo? Like he played like four
Mm,
games, whatever, last year,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So we have to also be realistic. Like, and this is to the next question. Like, he tries to score own goal or get a red card. I'm sure as a footballer he doesn't want that. I'm sure. I think he wants to win games. I think he wants to do the right thing. And there are wonderful, matches. You are as much of a Barca supporter that we are. I'm sure you remember really good games against Madrid where he has been impeccable,
Hmm.
or other games as well
Hmm.
where he has been absolutely
Hmm.
impeccable, right? And we have loved him for what he has brought. He's gone through a tough time. He's gone through an injury. His last year with Xavi wasn't the best. He was very openly criticized for us dropping out of the Champions League last season. It was like it was his fault. That's what it came out as. But it wasn't just his
Yeah.
fault. So we just gotta be like, should we sell him? Should we not sell him? I. uh, it's, first of all, we don't decide whether we should sell him or not. The second thing is there is a release clause. If people had to buy him for that amount of money, they would have already paid it, but they haven't. Nobody has. That's the truth of it. So um, I think right now it is what it is, and we have a system that is working. If he's unhappy, uh, which I think he might be, if if he's dropped on every other game, he will possibly on his own force a move out. And if it happens, I don't think it will be the end of the world for us as Barca. I think it'll be all right. Yeah, we have good coverage from that perspective. Um, but I still feel he does have some good qualities,
Absolutely.
and we should probably give him that little time to come back from that injury and see what
Hmm.
happens.
Hmm.
Right? I'm not saying he's going to be a Pau Cubarsí. He's never going to be a Pau Cubarsí. He's never going to be a Inigo Martinez as well. He won't. But these are three different
Yeah.
defenders. What Araujo can do, Cubarsí or Inigo
Yeah.
can't do. And sometimes in defending, you need that.
Yeah, oh, you need that often. You need that often. Just depends on the context that Barca create, the game state that they create. And if I had a choice, I would still keep him if he's happy to be what he is now, and he doesn't demand to be the best paid player on the team, and he's more. If he's a situational pick, then he can't be the best paid defender or the player in the team. That just doesn't work that way. But as Dev said, his skill set is unique and is very valuable. It's there's no question about that. It's just that he's not at his best currently, and he has to be for a number of reasons. Okay, I'll try and be quick about this. So number one is the trade of that he brings to the table. He needs to be as good in his defending as Kubarsi is in his passing for this trade-off to work. Otherwise, you have a player who's somewhat good at defending. I mean, he's more than somewhat good, but I'm just paraphrasing. He's somewhat good at defending, but bad at passing. Right? This to be a big impact. It has to have a big impact on the team, right? At the moment, it doesn't have such a big impact because injuries and whatnot, but it has to have. Number two is the contract drama because people last year people were more forgiving and more willing maybe to turn a blind eye to Araujo's weaknesses because he was committed to the club, he was performing defensively, so there was no need for us to keep highlighting that he's a bad passer, right? There was no need for that. But now I feel like he's also lost a bit of the goodwill that he had. Yeah,
Somewhat.
yeah,
Yeah.
because of all the drama. Look at Pedri and Gavi. Renewal just like that, not no drama. That's when they get more leeway, more of a support from the fans. They also perform as well. There we go.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, next question. Will you start Frankie ahead of Castro, considering both of their performances recently? I don't know.
Hmm.
I would probably switch them depending on the game and play with both of them at times. But I do think Frankie will get more and more exposure now because I think, and this is, I don't know, the fourth or the fifth match that I'm seeing
Yeah.
that Flick has called on him to save a situation.
Hmm.
And if you're a manager and if you're counting on one profile consistently to save a situation, what happens more often than not is that you'll keep going back to that person. So uh, the way things are going, I think, yeah, we'll see uh, more of Frankie, provided he's not injured or what have
Hmm.
you. But I think Castro will still be used from time to time, depending on the game state and depending on on the situation because we don't know what's happening in the summer. Like Frankie's got 1 year on his
Yeah,
contract, and
yeah.
from what we hear, I don't know whether that's true or not because we're not transfer journalists. He doesn't want if he renews, he wants it at the same salary, and I don't think that can work
Mm,
for Barca
mhm.
anymore. I just don't think it can work. So. In a situation like that, you need your Fermins, you need your Castros, you need your Mark Manals, you need all of that.
Yeah.
So they have to be nurtured and taken along the journey. So I think both of them will play. Um,
Mhm.
it's about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, they both play. They're both again in that situational category at the moment. But Frankie, man, he's been really, really good the last couple of games, and he's also we have to remember that he also had his ankle injuries, consistent like recurring ankle injuries, and I think that has impacted mentally and physically a lot.
Massively,
That
massively.
massively, especially with a recurring injury of the same part of the body kept
Area.
getting injured, and that's massive for a player, right? Especially for someone like Frankie who relies on those ankles maybe more than most players. But he's been absolutely he was brilliant today. He changed the game again, and I think that this Frankie. I don't know. He keeps going up in my estimation, and we'll have a video of Frankie as well very soon to show.
Yeah, we're coming out with another one this
Yeah,
week. So this week we have two videos on Araujo and
yeah.
Frankie. So
So
hopefully we'll answer some of all these
and
questions that we
exactly,
have.
because
So
the stats are also saying that Frank is actually, he's a beast on the ball. Now off the ball, we know that.
we actually compared Frankie and
Yeah.
Casado to see though it was silly. I mean, Frankie's a lot more experienced than Casado, but we wanted to see based on this season,
Hmm.
and the data is quite telling on many things.
Yes.
So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Okay, Dom, you have a
Hmm.
question on Chesney and Pena
Chasing
again.
Pena, shot stopping much better than Pena's. So Pena's passing is not good. I think that's why he's not playing now. Chesney's passing, as I've said earlier in the stream, is not world breaking, but I think that's kind of nudging him ahead of Pena at this moment at least. Uh,
How does Ferran Torres manage to get on the good books of every manager? Saudi look took players from our youth team, but why is Ferran ignored? Is he that good? What does he do with every manager? I don't know. Honestly, we don't know what Ferran does. But what Ferran does do, which is visible on television, is that he doesn't mope, he doesn't give inflammatory, interviews, he doesn't cry that he's not getting chances. You see him, he's there, he picks on whatever comes his way. He comes, he looks happy, scores goals here and
yeah,
there. So I would say he's doesn't make it difficult for the manager, doesn't make it difficult for them, and he's there around to be counted upon, and he can score in that odd goal which every manager needs, and that makes him perfectly utility player that probably all managers want to keep beside them. They don't want to let go because it's not worth it. He doesn't earn that much, for sure. And if he can do like today, he came in and the game changed, and he has done that in many games. He comes in as an impact sub on the 70th,
hmm
and then the game changes. So he's definitely got a value there from that perspective. Saudi League took players from our youth team. Yes, they did, but there's a reason. I don't like the people who are going. There are two reasons of going to Saudi League. One, at this age, you make enough money so that you don't have to worry about your life again. Because footballers' life, nobody
yeah,
knows. At this age, when let's say a Pauprim goes or an Unai Hernandez goes, they do 3 seasons or 4 seasons. They can again come back to Europe. They can go somewhere else. So it's possible they have the age on their side. Um, is he ignored? We don't know whether he was ignored. We don't know whether he got a deal or not from Saudi or what have you. We just don't know. But he's always been quite happy. Like he came to Barca. We've seen in Valencia. You saw him in City. I never heard him talk about okay, I want to go to the MLS or I want to go somewhere else. He's very happy being in the being in the Spanish league. So, but Dom, what's your thought?
I think is a just a useful profile to have around. The only question about Ferran is the 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 cost to performance value, right? So he was paid. He was very expensive for Barca. If you buy his pro,
For buying,
yeah, for buy,
yes,
yes,
for
it was
buying.
very expensive to buy.
Transfer money
Yeah,
was
he was very expensive to buy. But if you get a profile like his with the mentality and the off the bench impact and even the work rate and all that, even to a certain extent versatility, because he can play several roles as well. If you get him for the right price, you have a steal. We have a very valuable profile, right? He's a very much a utility profile that unlocks others, but he also chips in with goals. He does. I mean, he's always in those situations where he needs to be. His movement is good. His box instincts are good. He is a system finisher. I think he needs a system around him. He needs something repeatability to keep getting the ball in similar situations, and then he shines. But I think he's very useful to have, and if you can get him, like Barca's only fault is in this was that I think they overpaid when they bought him from City. But it is what it is now. But he's useful. I think he's useful still. That's his thing.
Yeah, I think so too. And like, I mean, I know we get into this zone of, we're saying that, okay, he earns too much, let's get rid of him. He earns too much, let's get, if we get rid of all of them and because they earn too much, that just doesn't how it
Mm,
works, right? Every club has the same problem. Every club. Look at Real Madrid and Chomeni. What will they be thinking? We all thought that was a great transfer.
mm,
Didn't turn out that
mm,
way, right? So every team, I think, has that. If you can get rid of Ferran, but who will bring you? Who bring in? Who will be happy to sit for every game and come on the 70th and try to change it for you without causing a lot of drama, right? So there are so many questions like that that need to be thought through. But yeah, of course, if you get a good profile and selling Ferran is very difficult because of his transfer
mhm,
fees. And we still owe that money to City. So if we sell him, we are not going to make any money out of that.
mhm.
We are literally not going to make any financial fair play out of selling Ferran, which is why Ferran doesn't get sold. That's basically as simple as it is because we haven't paid the debt that we owe to Man City for buying him. And that was clearly mentioned in the reports, the annual reports that are there. So you can go and check it out. And so that's the reason. It's nothing to do with Saudi or somebody else. It's just that we won't make any money. The club won't make any. So they let him stay. Isn't Malik Fofana, Leon? I haven't
No, I don't know. I don't know
scouted.
even. I don't know.
No idea at all.
Mm.
So sorry,
No.
really sorry, but we would love to know. Now that we have heard this name, we would love to go back and check. So we can try doing that. But I personally don't know at all. Could you tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
he's
him? Like,
young. He's very young. I think he's like 17, 18. I don't even remember, something like that. I have to Google, but I don't know. I'm not watched his footage enough to tell you.
me too. I
So
haven't. Like I've watched Leon, but I haven't watched him like with that much of interest and that much of
mm,
focus. That okay, but this is a good one. So hopefully we'll do after this. Can we still sign Haaland, or we have to wait for his kid to grow? I don't think we can sign Haaland. I don't even think Haaland will fit this team very well. Um, so and Haaland just signed till what 2050 with City or something like that. He literally signed for his whole lifetime. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have like clauses where he can leave. I'm sure there are those, but for now, I think the Haaland train has passed for Barca.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem likely. And if we're gonna sign someone this summer like a big signing, it's looking like a winger anyway. And then we'll see what happens with Araujo as well, because if he leaves, then probably someone else will have to come
Yeah,
in
what
as
do you do?
well. And a lot depends on the exits for Barca.
What do you do with Dani Olmo?
And Dani Olmo.
More
Dani Olmo
questions.
is also a very, when he's here, he obviously contributes. But if you're never here, then you can't be a difference.
Then what will
Yeah,
you
you
do?
can't be a difference maker, which is a big problem that we knew. We knew this will happen. We all knew this will happen. So it's kind of he can still come back though and play the rest of the season perfectly. So let's see what happens before we.
It's hopefully, yeah. I mean, there are 16, 17, 18
Yeah.
games,
So
whatever, and some Champions
it,
League and Copa del Rey,
yeah.
whatever. So hopefully he will
Mhm,
contribute. But to Tom's point, if you're never
mhm,
there, right, then what's the
yeah.
point of you being there? And this is not criticizing Danny Olmo. Nobody can criticize anybody for illnesses.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
may he get better soon.
Of course.
But the fact is, if you're not contributing, which he can't right
Mhm.
now, then how will you measure the utility of players like him?
Yeah.
So yeah, those questions will always possibly remain, and this summer will be good because we don't know what the transfer situation looks like. What we do know, however, is Barca will be able to spend at least 1:1. But can't really probably go crazy because our wage bill is still high. So until and unless something changes there, we can't really spend a ton of money. But some of these transfers that we are talking about, like the one that we just talked about
Hmm.
with City, Nico Gonzalez, if that happens, that's a lot of money. If Araujo goes away, that's a lot of money. So there are many options. So if the dominoes fall in the right way, don't know. Maybe we end up with Liao
Maybe.
or Nico Williams or what have you. But we just don't won't know until we see how the thing pans out. Because while Barca are at 1:1, the wage bill is still high. So until unless somebody leaves, they can't really pick up somebody. So and Ansu Fati is not leaving anytime soon.
Mm.
I think Lewandowski also is not leaving um, next year. I just don't think that's going to happen. So once these players are there, they're there. So who do you bring in? So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the
Yeah.
summer. With it's football, you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, would love your thoughts also. Please let us know like what kind of players you would like us to cover in terms of transfer options. As we go into next year, we would love to do videos and content around that. So please do let us know if you have names. We would love to go and just study them, look at the data, and hopefully create content around that and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, let's come back to Alaves. It's been 45 minutes of us talking, and thanks to everybody who's joined in. But that was good. That was a wonderful 1-0.
Yeah.
May it never happen again. I'm very happy that I'm not going to face Alaves again this season. We'll meet them again next year. But very much looking like I'm very interested in next week's game becomes so much more interesting between Madrid and Atleti. That'll be box office. So let's see who wins there, or maybe both lose. I'll be very happy if there's a draw and both those points. So we'll see, and if we can, get closer because we can be within 1 point or 2 points of them by next week if everything
Yeah.
goes right. So hopefully, let's keep fingers crossed. Anything else, Tom, from your side before we?
No, I think we can wrap this up just now. Thank you everyone for joining. It's been lovely having so many of you. Especially this is an early kickoff. It's weird for a Sunday as well, and you coming here and staying here almost an hour with us chatting. It's wonderful. Keep an eye on our content because we'll be doing a lot of things with our blog on our YouTube channel and podcast. So please, if any of you can follow us and subscribe to our content, that would be lovely. There's so many of you here, and I'm sure that most of you are not subscribed, which is fine. But it would help us a lot to just your support is why we do this anyway, and obviously the love for football in Barcelona. And as long as you are here supporting us, we will be here creating the content that we hope that you will enjoy, among other things, of course. So yeah, there you have it.
Yep. And let's hope we win the league, guys. Let's just hope we
Mm,
have a few more of these 1-0s and we just somehow win the league. That'll be so
yeah,
happy. And let's hope for a favorable tie in the Champions League. It'll be good to go a little bit deep into the
there you go.
competition. And with that, thank you guys for joining. That was awesome. Yeah, super happy with that. With those 3 points, we just take it and run.
Mm.
And we got